And the current mayor of Louisville? No, the former mayor?
21 years former.
21 years former, and the former lieutenant governor.
That is correct.
One question for you. How do you pronounce the capital of Kentucky?
Frankfurt.
Louisville or Louisville?
Real good.
I was going to get you. I was going to try.
But yeah, that's good. That's good.
You've been asked that once or twice before.
Normally it's what's the capital, Louisville or Lexington?
Oh, okay. And you say Frankfurt.
You say Frankfurt.
Frankfurt.
Yeah,
Okay,
right.
good. All right. So the reason why you're here is because and how do you say? Is it Louisville?
Louisville.
Louisville. All right.
Got it.
And so I think I've driven by there. I want to go see the Louisville Slugger plant, which I heard is
fabulous.
fantastic.
The Louisville Slugger Museum is great. The Muhammad Ali Museum is fabulous. The Kentucky Derby Museum out of Churchill Downs, definitely worthwhile. And then if you're a bourbon drinker,
yes,
I mean, you got to go on the Bourbon Trail and check them all out. The distilleries have wonderful welcoming facilities where you can have tastings and understand the difference between bourbon and other types of whiskeys.
Right.
And by the time you hit enough of them, you really won't remember much of it.
All right, there you go. Now, you're here because you're here to talk to some St. Louisans about Louisville, which consolidated. Was it exactly like St. Louis City, St. Louis County? Tell us what old Louisville was.
Yeah, we have within the county, our county's name is Jefferson. Within the county of Jefferson in Kentucky, we had about 93 suburban cities and the city of Louisville.
Okay.
And so we had to work through that process with multiple fire districts. And the one thing we have a little differently, we had a little different at our time back in 2000 when the people voted to consolidate, was that we had one consolidated school district. There was a countywide school district. Okay. But we had multiple police departments, multiple fire departments, multiple governments, many suburban mayors and councils. And we were, I'm going to tell today at lunch a story about how a second-tier city had this vision, this dream of becoming a major metropolitan area. And the way you do that is you go from being a city the size of Louisville at the time, which was the 67th largest city in America, to a consolidated city-county with one government, one leader, being able to be much more agile on your feet for economic growth and development, to a city that ranks 16th in the United States and made every top 25 lists in the country.
When did you consolidate?
We voted 3 times when it failed and a 4th time when it passed. We thought about it first back in 1947. We voted on it first in 56. We voted on it again in 82. We lost by 1,200 votes in 82. We said, let's bring it back in 83. We lost by 2,500 votes in 83. We were going the wrong way. And in the year 2000, it was on the ballot. And it passed inside and outside, city and outside into the county, 54-46. And, the basic reason was you can't run a 21st century community based on a 19th century government structure. Right. So you got to get with change. And, change is what's the name of the game. And if you aren't changing and others are, you're falling behind.
The Sky is Falling group, have they come along to your side all these years later and realized that change actually turned out to be good?
As I said, 54% voted for it. Right. The latest poll I saw a couple years ago was in the mid-60s, a little higher than 60. And many of the folks that were questioned simply said, I don't see much change. And that's good. So when they called a policeman showed. When they called the fire department, they showed up. Right. When they needed assistance on a pothole, they got it. I would submit that the 65 or 66% that think change has occurred would tell you that it's more efficient, it's more cost effective, and we're putting out better services without an increase in tax.
If you are creating just as good a services, if not better, and all the other things that a local government should do, the trash is being picked up the same way. Are you seeing reduced costs for government services?
There was no question. I mean, I remember when we first put it together, the election was in 2000. The government took office January 2003. So we had a running start to get ready, okay? Right. Well, just in merging the mayor's office with the county executive's office, we saved $700,000 a year. In merging our banking and having a consolidated banking approach, we saved $850,000 a year. And in vehicles, when we put it all together. And, you know, we were transforming government. This wasn't just taking 20 trucks from the city, 20 trucks from the county and saying, oh, the new government has 40 trucks.
Right.
The idea was to be more efficient, to be cost effective. And in redoing the entire fleet, in downgrading it from explorers to from expeditions to explorers, from explorers to the smaller vehicles in Fords, all of those kinds of things that we did, plus the management and reorganization of the garages, we saved over $6 million. And it goes on and on and on. So, you know, did it, and you know, something that was really important when we went out to float debt to build something as like a ballpark or something. We had the consolidated new government had the highest rating on Wall Street than either of the two governments had ever had in the history. So we had an enhanced rating of AA+, which no one had ever had.
Right. We
We were saving money, and over time, through the efficiencies during the strong recession period in 2008, 9, 10, 11, when Seattle was closing libraries because they didn't have any money, because the property taxes were going down, because the values were going down, when others were doing things of that nature, we never had to do anything, because when the merger occurred, and I was elected the first mayor of the new city of Louisville. We went from 265,000 to 740,000. I was like Noah. I mean, I had two of everything. And so literally I was in a position that I could begin to bring about the change and in a cost-effective way. Plus we were able to put in major management studies that would look at department by department, because we were consolidating them and we got to create them in any way we wanted to create them. And we ended up setting up all sorts of data measures that could decide how we were doing. It was a much more modern.
So you were really able, because of this mandate from the voters, you were really able to create a 21st century city.
I think we were. I think most people would agree we were. The simple language on the ballot was, we're going to consolidate the city and the county. We're going to merge the city, the mayor and the city and the county executive, and we're going to merge the two legislative bodies, the county commission and the board of aldermen is what we called our city council, and that's all it said. And then it said, and then that group will decide: are you going to merge EMS? Are you going to merge the finance departments? Are you going to merge? Which of course we were going to merge them all.
Right.
And on day one, because I had so much time to prepare, because I had the best chance to win, because I had the best chance to make the least amount of mistakes in putting this thing together, because I'd been mayor for 13 years. We were able to literally roll out the first ordinance that went before the new metro body that said everything's merging. And we got a new police chief, and we got the city police and the county police, who never liked each other for 200 years, to begin singing Kumbaya and working together.
Right.
But we had to buy new uniforms. We had to repaint the cars. There was a lot of startup costs that we had to invest in. But we did it first with the cops, because we figured if the citizens saw the new Metro Police logo on the new Metro Police cars, not city cars, not county cars, they would begin to understand it was for real. And then we went to the EMS ambulances, and we took the old county and the old city, we repainted them, had the new design, the logo, and rolled them out. And it created an atmosphere where people were pretty positive.
Jerry Abramson, former lieutenant governor of the Commonwealth of Kentucky. He was the mayor when Louisville consolidated in 2000. I guess it voted in 2000 and took place in 2003.
Correct.
All right, Jerry Abramson, what about the criticism that you consolidate, and therefore the voices of the downtrodden, the poor, the minorities are no longer heard in a bigger government and a consolidated government like Louisville?
Well, I would submit just the opposite occurs. In your community here, you have 7 county commissioners and a county executive.
Okay.
We had 3 county commissioners and a county executive. And we had 12 aldermen, and you have 20 some odd.
28 going down to 18, I believe.
So what we did was, in the county, since there was 700,000 people in the county, there were only 3 commissioners. So each one represented about 225,000 people. Nobody knew who the heck their commissioner was.
Right.
When we consolidated, we created a city council of 26. And in that new city council, all of a sudden, 30, 35, 40,000 constituents is all they had. And so for the first time, individuals in some of the more difficult, disinvested neighborhoods had someone at the table making decisions for the community and taking their best interest into account as he or she voted accordingly. So I think it was a positive.
Yeah. What about you guys get into tax increment financing where you pitted one county against another and you stole somebody's Walmart for tax?
Yeah, that's what happens when you have multiple governments and multiple entities fighting each other. What we did is we decided when we were going to consolidate, we were going to speak with one voice. We were going to lay out all the options for the decision maker business that was coming into the community. So if you're coming into the airport and you're the decision maker, we're going to show you a downtown, we're going to show you a suburban area. We'll even go to the next county over and show you a more rural setting if you want, because the reality is we will get the economic benefit in the Louisville area better if you go in the next county over than if you go to Chicago or to Columbus, Ohio. And so we really decided we were going to do a regional economic approach, and it created an opportunity for us to say to folks, we are one community. You choose what's best for you. And in terms of local folks, where, as you say, a building is over here on one side of the block and they want to be pulled over to the other side by the government, we no longer did those.
What about the people who would complain that, wait a minute, the city, that's high crime and a whole lot of trouble. I don't want that trouble coming out to the county in my nice neighborhood. I don't want to be affiliated with those people.
Well, when we put our city and county police together and we were able to get rid of that management layer, we put an additional 100 police officers for community policing on the street. So therefore, we had the opportunity to be able to be much more comprehensive in terms of our coverage. And what happened with EMS, we literally were able to, there was a county emergency medical service, and they dealt with things out in the suburbs, and there was the city, and they dealt with things in the city. But when they got to that borderline, that arbitrary line, one wouldn't cross it.
Right.
You'd simply wait and let the guy across the street die waiting for the other EMS to show.
Right.
Now we were able to take the entire community and deploy EMS in a certain way during the day where people were more congregated in one area or another, and then deploy them in a completely different way in the evening where folks were deployed differently accordingly, and we provided more comprehensive service.
Any negatives in the consolidation of Louisville?
You know, personally, I think we should not have run our elections based on political party. Most communities around America run nonpartisan.
Right.
And that's what I wanted to do, but I was overruled. And so we have Democrats and we have Republicans. So therefore, you have a Democratic budget assistant, and you have a Republican budget assistant,
Right.
and you have a public relations for the Republican caucus, and a public relations person, media person
Right.
for the Democratic caucus. I think that's wrong. I'd much prefer having it nonpartisan, because at the local level, it's not a debate game where you're trying to gain debate points.
Right.
You got to get the potholes filled.
Right.
You got to put the fires out.
There's not a liberal and or conservative philosophy in picking up the trash.
You're not the first one that has said that.
Oh, I thought I was the first one.
No,
I thought that was a brilliant deduction on my part.
It was brilliant, but there was a guy named LaGuardia,
Yes.
who was mayor of New York.
Yes.
He said that.
He said that.
He said that.
Well, I went to his airport recently. It's a mess.
It's terrible.
It's
The
terrible.
construction
it's a mess.
outside is
It's
terrible.
outrageous. All right, Jerry Abramson. If you could do anything again, you would do that. You would change.
Yeah, I definitely would do that. I
would do that.
would change that. There's some little technical things that your listeners really wouldn't, I think, appreciate. But if you're sitting as the mayor, I used to have a law department when I was mayor of the old city. So if I wanted to build, an arena, I simply call my law director and I say to her, give me the options of how I can build this arena. We have a county-elected county attorney, and that person is now the lawyer for the separately elected mayor. And so if I, in fact, let's say the county attorney was someday going to run against the mayor, and so I call the county attorney up and I say it happened to be a man at the time, I want to build that arena that we were just talking about. And he said, I really don't think the community's ready to build an arena.
So he would play.
So he has a press conference, and next thing you know, we're into it. And I think that shouldn't have been a political position. I think it should have been a staff position to
Right.
the mayor and the council, and just doing what they asked.
So you're coming to town to speak at this luncheon, and your recommendation to the region is run, don't walk to city-county consolidation.
Well, there are many versions of consolidated government, and so I'm not here to say that ours is the best, But I am here to say that you can't run a 21st century community with a 19th century structure. And change is where the action is. You know, people have got to have ownership. I read something the other day where it said that no one has ever washed a rental car.
Mm-hmm.
You ever washed a rental car?
You know, you're not the first person to say that.
Who said that?
I believe it was a mayor named LaGuardia.
Well, and it's the truth. Unless you've got some ownership, unless you've got some pride, unless you've got some connection. And this is a community, this St. Louis, as was Louisville. And it's an urban community. You can't tell where you step across the line from where the city of St. Louis is into the county. You can't see it because it's an urbanized community. So it's time to get one leader, and it's time to get an agenda that everybody can join and ultimately bring about an expanded and an energized hometown.
Jerry Abramson, former lieutenant governor of Kentucky, old mayor of Louisville when it went from a two-town to a one-town after the fourth vote.
That is correct.
Took 4 votes. The
About
first
30
one
years.
in 1956, 82 you lost, 83 you lost, and in 2000
we won.
You won, and it's been 17 years of consolidated bliss in Louisville. Jerry,
I'm not sure that's true, but it's been good.
Jerry Abramson, you're always welcome here. Thank you for coming.
Thanks for the invite.
9:33, Big 5.